comes late. Some say too late, but Joe Biden's decision to greenlight the use of the US Army's tactical missile system, otherwise known as ATACMS, for targeting inside Russia will be welcomed by Ukraine and its European partners. It's a much-needed morale boost after several days of heavy bombardment, much of it aimed at the Ukrainian power grid. The question, of course, is what difference will it make, given the short period of time there is left before the incoming US administration presumably withdraws that support. With us in the studio, our expert-in-chief, Mikey Kay. He flew attack helicopters for 20 years. He served as a military planner, and he presents this segment as he would do to his commanding officers. How are you, sir?
Very good. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been a while. Let's get into this decision. Why now? Why has he taken this decision? Some would say belatedly, but certainly it appears timely.
Yeah, I think there are many people in policy decisions around the world that would argue this has come late in the day. And I think Zelensky would argue that he's been trying to defend Ukraine with one arm tied behind his back. But as we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, one of the main trigger mechanisms that has instigated all of this is the introduction of North Korean troops inside Russia. We can go slide, please. One of the most important areas of military capability at the moment is in the Kursk region. A couple of weeks ago when we were reporting about this, information was telling us that there were going to be probably anything up to 8 to 10,000 DPRK troops. Well, 2 weeks later, not only are there 8 to 10,000 DPRK troops in the Kursk region, there is about 50,000 combined Russian troops who are involved in that area, and that's certainly been one trigger mechanism.
Okay, so what does the ATACMS give them that they didn't previously have?
Well, they've had ATACMS for a long time. They've had medium-range ATACMS that were delivered at the end of 2023. More importantly, they've now been given long-range ATACMS in April of this year, which gives them a significant capability when it comes to launching long-range missiles inside Russian territory. And I think what's important at this point is certainly the information that we've got so far, Christian, is that the approval to use ATACMS by Zelensky is specific to the Kursk area. It's not sort of a wide-ranging blanket to be able to use wherever he wants. So, for example, in the Crimea region. So it's specific at the moment to the Kursk region. And if we can just go to slide, please. We've got some video footage here of ATACMS missiles being used. What's important here is you've seen this missile media all day. The other important bit about this is the HIMARS launcher. Now, the HIMARS launcher can have a number of different rockets and missiles inside there, and it's highly maneuverable, which means it's harder to take out by the Russians. So it's a combined capability, if you like.
How fast is that going?
So it's got a range of 190 miles.
So it's not hypersonic?
No, hypersonic is Mach 5 plus. This has a speed of about Mach 3, which is around 2,600 miles an hour, which makes it really, really hard to target for any air defense capability on the Russian side.
So it's harder to stop?
Yeah, definitely harder to stop. It's very maneuverable. It's launched from a system that is incredibly maneuverable. And if we go back to, slide please, if we go back to the ranges slide, we can see that the missile basically has an effect area out to 190 miles, which is greater than any missile system that Ukraine have at the moment.
So you can see Kursk up there on the northeast corner of Ukraine, this is where the Ukraine troops are. There are other, you can see further south, there are other more desirable targets that the Ukrainians would want to use them.
Yeah, 100%. So Zelensky's basically been predicating the whole use of ATACMS on the victory plan, which I would argue now is becoming more of a get yourself into a good negotiating position plan than a victory plan. But anything from command and control, air defense systems, airfields, anything that would allow Zelensky to degrade and deter whatever Russia has.
Has reacted to the United States allowing Ukraine to use long-range missiles to strike targets in Russia, accusing President Biden of fueling tensions. It's also warning the move could escalate the conflict. The decision by the outgoing US president is a major policy shift. It means Ukraine can now use army tactical missile systems, known as ATACMS, to defend its forces in Russia's Kursk region on Ukraine's northeast border. Russian President Vladimir Putin previously warned the West that he would consider such a move to be a major escalation in the conflict.
In India have announced further restrictions for construction activities and vehicle movements in the capital Delhi to combat worsening air quality, which is now being categorised as severe plus. A blanket of toxic smog has covered the city of 30 million people for the past week. Well, let's show you the live pictures of Delhi. Hard to tell where that is, I'm sure you will agree.
All right, we're gonna go in here. Even as I'm stepping through these doors, I don't fully grasp what we're about to walk into. Suddenly, you're hit with the intense gaze of dozens locking onto you. These men described as the worst of the worst, tattooed with reminders of El Salvador's dark past. It's tense and uncomfortable. But here, officials say comfort isn't meant to exist. There's no mattresses, there's no sheets. You've got a toilet over here for them to go to the bathroom. You've got this basin here that they use to bathe themselves. And then you can see there's a barrel of water that they can drink from. Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as SECOT. Corridor with more security personnel. Luz 24 horas. 24/7 light. On this terrain, about an hour and a half drive from the capital. Even with government officials on board with us, we're stopped a mile out. Oh, okay. He's gonna inspect bags now too. Okay, we're clear to get back in. Approaching the main gate, our cell signals vanish. They want to do a full search on us before we enter. SECOT's director, Belarmino Garcia, greets us and takes us through a rigorous security check. Wedding ring. So this is shoes off. This one back on. He says they have to constantly remind themselves that they're dealing with essentially the worst of the worst, and for that reason, they need to be ready for whatever risks they might face. Once they're inside one of these sectors, they never leave. Everything is done within, including doctors, as well as legal visits or court hearings. 24 large cells. Roughly 80 inmates per cell, but it can fluctuate. Most bear the markings of the gangs that held this nation hostage for decades, committing brutal acts of violence.
You gotta kill people, you gotta rob, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
You have to do those things.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
And if you didn't do those things, you wouldn't.
You wanna be a gangbanger.
Meet 41-year-old Marvin Vasquez, shackled and heavily guarded. What gang were you part of?
MS-13.
Do you have any gang affiliations?
Yeah, I'm tattooed up.
What is this?
Crazy criminal. Say crazy criminal. Some church religion programs too.
3.5 hours. They're kept inside and locked up. Free.
Time for lefties losing it. Let's hear from a lefty losing it election oracle, presidential predictor Alan Lichtman got it very wrong when he said Kamala would win the election, and like lefties losing it everywhere, he prefers to blame misinformation, also known as facts he doesn't like. Watch this meltdown, it is delicious.
And that's directly tied to misinformation. You know, they don't like Trump, but, you know, they're thinking, well, do we
pick up more votes this time than he did in 2016?
Pardon me?
Did Donald Trump pick up more votes this time than he did in 2016?
Yeah,
or
but not that he picked up in 2020, the most relevant last election. He picked up about the same.
What I'm saying is that both sides can say things like this, like misinformation. It's hard to quantify that.
If you don't let me make my points, why do you have me on?
No, we love it. It's a conversation. It's spirited. I think there's a little bit of a delay.
We're done.
I
You
think
won't let me talk. What's the point? Are you the expert or am I the expert?
He's the expert. Did you hear him? Imagine saying that during an interview while you discuss why you got it so wrong. Democrats some sensible guidance, which they'll no doubt ignore.
He's the president of the United States, and I wish him nothing but the best. But we lost. And I just want to say this to the Democrats, which I'm an independent who voted Democratic. Do me this favor. Shut the up. When you win, you get to say what you want to. When you lose, you need to shut the up. We still haven't solved the immigration problem, have no viable answers, never addressed inflation, bringing all these stupid stars out to rally the vote. What was that? You guys lost because y'all stupid.
Yes, you guys lost because you're stupid, and so you're Birmingham.
I want to bring up the issue with trans in schools. I do think children should be allowed to have that knowledge on if they want to transition on what they want to do.
If I have a boy and he thinks he's a pirate, Do I have the right to cut off his knee and take an eye out and give him an eye patch?
I think once it gets to that certain point.
A certain point? Like, what's the point where I can cut off my son's knee and say, because he thinks he's a pirate?
I think that's purely between the parent and the child.
Well, I don't think a parent should be allowed to do that.
You should have the option to go be educated and then still go and make the choice that you want to make.
Okay, not at 14. If you are under 25 years old, they don't even let you rent a car in this state. What does Avis, Enterprise, and Hertz know that the medical establishment seems so blissfully ignorant about? You are not a good decision maker at 14. You turn 18, you cut off any part you want, and I hope that you don't.
You know, this segment proves the left are ripe for the many issues the left present them, but not this next group.
Happy Pride! Mom, Dad, I told you, I have a girlfriend. I'm straight.
Sweetheart, Carol, no son of mine will be straight. Sweetheart, I know that you are young and you are confused, and all your little perverted friends on the internet have told you that being straight is cool. But the first day of Pride is not the time. You are not my son. All my life I pictured myself sitting on the couch with my son watching The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and you've taken that from me. No, you know what? No one can take that from you. He is in there somewhere. Our son is somewhere inside of that golf-playing, beer-drinking demon, looking her in the eyes. She does not deserve you. Look at Lady Gaga. Today is the first day of Pride. I have made you this cake. Your grandmother is downstairs, and she has bought you a new mesh crop top. You will wear it today with a smile on your face.
Great skit and much funnier than what Saturday Night Live comes up with nowadays. Did you catch their latest work? It is so dangerously unfunny, it should come with a cringe warning. That's enough, please, enough. And that is the best of it.
Here we go again, wild history, a little bit of snow and the country goes into meltdown. People just need to get a grip. Well, in some parts of the country, I think they've had a foot of snow. Let's talk to Claire Nazir as well, because National Rail have warned the snow will impact various routes on Northern Rail until at least 2 p.m. today. Highways Agency snow warnings for impacted roads include the M26, the M1 at Leeds and Sheffield, and the M56 at Manchester. And Birmingham Airport's got some delayed flights as well. Claire, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, I was talking to my producer Christian yesterday, and I said, I think there's a big of an Arctic snow blast coming. And as usual, we all kind of went, yeah, well, let's wait until it gets here. Well, here it is, and it's quite a big one.
It really is, and a shock to the system, because 2 weeks ago we were talking about temperatures of 18 in Scotland. Last night they saw minus 11 across the snowfields. So that is a very, very different feel to things as people are stepping outside. And we're not really used to the snow, are we? So when we see some, yes, it looks beautiful, but it does hide sort of a lot of dangers out there, including slippery surfaces and that bitter cold as well.
I mean, refuse to make them for me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What?
Oh. No. Let me explain. They said that their ovens had gone down, all kinds of stuff, but folks went and got them anyway, which is why I'm not telling you who made them. But it's not camping because I'm a woman, but perhaps they did not like my politics.
Yeah. And I know how hard my family has worked to keep this business alive. My bakers come in 2 or 3 in the morning just to have donuts and rolls for everybody to come in and say, we have the best rolls ever. This is what makes Holteman's. It's the community.
So if you haven't heard the story by now, Whoopi Goldberg, as you can see there, learning the hard way that going after a Staten Island institution can be a recipe for controversy. Thousands of customers lined up outside Holterman's Bakery to show their support after the View co-host accused that bakery of political discrimination. Community leaders calling on her to apologize, but instead, here's the update. She appears to double down in this new video.
There seems to be a lot of talk about the dessert I requested for my birthday show. I never mentioned the name of the bakery or the location. It does seem a little odd that when we called a few weeks before my birthday and we were told they couldn't process the order for my birthday because of an equipment failure, but somehow they were able to accept an order of a different 48 of the same dessert when somebody else called without using my name. But it's all okay, y'all, because I enjoyed my delicious dessert and I had a happy, sweet birthday.
Looks like cleanup on aisle 6 to me. Joining us now is Staten Island Borough President Vito Vasella. Thank you very much for being here. We saw you at that news conference. I mean, you lit the crowd up. You have people lining up outside the bakery because they feel bad for what's happened to this institution, the Staten Island institution. Welcome to you. Did that clear anything up, that video with Whoopi Goldberg there?
No, not at all. In my opinion, first of all, the story here is Holterman, the family is wonderful. They're the salt of the earth. They've had a business for 146 years. Not many people can say that. They have an impeccable reputation. People love them and their business. And then this woman went on national television and basically misrepresented what happened. And to have a platform like that and disparage, potentially, arguably defame a business that has no recourse in the court of public opinion, and they were devastated. And what we said, we were going to stand up for those businesses, and we're not going to take the abuse. She may have had the bully pulpit, but she came across as a bully, if you ask me. And the family, not being used to this, said, what do we do? So the Staten Island community stood up and stood strong and stood up for the Holterman family, the Holterman Bakery. And I commend the Holtermans for just having the grace to take the high road. And the Staten Island community stepping out, waiting online hour after hour to say we support Holterman's. But it could have been any small business. It could have been anybody who was attacked on the national airwaves for something they didn't do.
You know, as a reporter, I stepped back from the story and I said, well, you know, could have something happened there that maybe we didn't see? Maybe there was somebody, this is just me just asking you, based on the facts that you have at hand, could there have been somebody behind the register who didn't like the idea that this was for Whoopi Goldberg and said, not today?
So the facts are the boiler that they had in place that they need to make the cakes was about 60 or 70 years old. They were planning on replacing it. They didn't know how long it would take to replace. So Jill Holterman actually did the right thing by telling the woman, we can't commit to it. We would hate for you to have a birthday party and the boiler would still be down. So, you know, go someplace else. And then the boiler was fixed, probably in less time than they anticipated. And then people could buy cakes again. She was not the only one that was declined.
So they sent somebody else in there
after the fact.
After it was fixed.
Correct.
And so she connects the dots and says, oh, they'll serve them without my name attached to it, but they wouldn't serve me.
Yeah, and she wouldn't, you know, the old expression, she wouldn't accept the truth. And somehow it was this, perhaps a degree of self-absorption that everybody thinks of politics every day. We just heard Jill. Her and her workers are at work sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to prepare every day. You think she really cares about politics? Her customer base or across the board, she wants to do well in business. My main concern was that this woman took to the national airwaves and sought to destroy a company.
She didn't say the name of the company, and I'm not defending her in any way, but she didn't say it then. In her, you know, clarification on Instagram there, that video, she also didn't say the name of the company, and she reminded people she didn't say this. So the question now is there a case of defamation as the legal, in the proper legal format? I'll put this up on the screen. This is Jonathan Turley's take. He says why defamation suit against Whoopi Goldberg could be a piece of cake. The implied accusation against the bakery could fit into a per se category of impugning business or professional integrity. Goldberg's statement was clearly meant to impugn the reputation and professional standing of the bakery. It can be argued as defamatory per se by implication, says Jonathan Turley.
(10:19), Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and the fabulous Eddie Costello. Got the panel with us here. But before we introduce them, should we introduce them now? Matthew Talbot, former Labour advisor, and my former friend from the Institute of Economic Affairs. You're much grander now. What's your title now?
I'm the Director of Popular Conservatives.
Director of Popular Conservatives. You forgot his tie.
Yeah.
Mark Littlewood.
No, I wear a tie in the evening.
I want you gentlemen to listen to this interview with Bridget Phillipson, who is our illustrious Secretary of State for Education, when she was asked a pretty simple question.
Called another kid, said that they smelt like fish. Surely you would accept, on the face of it, that that's preposterous for the police to be involved.
As a point of principle, and I mean this sincerely, I think it's unwise for politicians to get involved in discussions around operational policing matters.
Yeah, but the point is that you're the Education Secretary, so you're in charge of what happens in our classrooms.
2 points. As you say, I am responsible for what happens in our classrooms. I'm not responsible for the police forces in our country.
So what she was asked was, the police were called because a 9-year-old, no, he said to another child in the classroom, you smell a fish. Now, she's read this report. It was in the Times today. She read it yesterday. She says she can't make any comment, even in principle, as to whether it's right or wrong. Has the world gone mad?
Well, she's gone mad, hasn't she, Andrew? I mean, it's quite clearly wrong in principle. You might say, as a rider, I haven't read all of the details. Perhaps, you know, a punch was thrown or threatened to be thrown. But in principle, it is absolutely bananas. And she accepts she's responsible for what happens in the classroom. Well, why on earth does she have no opinion about what happened in this classroom? Which seems to be...
Rifleman.